In Memphis, Elon Musk is making a play to control the future of artificial intelligence. His company xAI says it has built the biggest supercomputer in the world with lightning speed.
Sometimes the most shocking corporate misconduct is hidden in plain sight, invisible to the naked eye.
What is happening here will swallow up our world if we don't stop it right here, right now.
Where Elon Musk's artificial intelligence company, X, now called xAI, opened a massive data center known as Colossus last year that supports the chatbot Grok.
In the heart of Memphis, Tennessee, something shocking just happened that could change the future of artificial intelligence forever. Elon Musk's massive Grok database center is now facing complete shutdown after authorities discovered something truly disturbing. What they found will make you question everything about big tech companies and their promises. Stick around because what happens next will blow your mind.
All right, welcome to the Grok 4 release here. This is the smartest AI in the world, and we're going to show you exactly how and why. It really is remarkable to see the advancement of artificial intelligence.
The birth of a tech monster. The story begins in 2024 when Elon Musk decided to build something incredible in an unexpected place. Instead of choosing Silicon Valley or another tech hub, Musk picked South Memphis for his ambitious artificial intelligence project. The location seemed perfect: cheap land, available power, and a community that welcomed big business investments. xAI began operations at its South Memphis data center in June of 2024, transforming an old manufacturing site into what would become the most powerful AI training facility on Earth. The project moved at breakneck speed, with construction crews working around the clock to build something that had never been attempted before. The centerpiece of this operation was Colossus, a supercomputer designed to train Grok.
Elon Musk's xAI has released its newest AI model, Grok 4, I believe as of 4 a.m. UK time, so about 3 hours, been live for 3 hours. What can we expect when it comes to this new iteration?
Musk's answer to ChatGPT and other popular AI systems. Grok 3 was trained with 10x more computing power than its predecessor, Grok 2, utilizing the data center Colossus, containing around 200,000 GPUs. To put that in perspective, most gaming computers have just one GPU, while this facility had enough computing power to run entire virtual worlds. Local officials were thrilled to have such a high-tech operation in their city. The project promised thousands of jobs, millions in tax revenue, and the chance to put Memphis on the map as a technology hub. City leaders rolled out the red carpet, offering incentives and fast-tracking permits to make Musk's vision a reality. But beneath the excitement and grand promises, something troubling was happening that nobody wanted to talk about. The first signs of trouble appeared just months after Colossus began operations. Residents living near the facility started noticing changes in their daily lives that seemed small at first but quickly became impossible to ignore. The facility is currently operating 33 methane-powered gas turbines to fuel its AI technology, despite holding a permit for only 15. These massive turbines, each one the size of a small building, burned natural gas around the clock to generate the enormous amounts of electricity needed to keep Colossus running. The problem was that most of these turbines were operating completely illegally. To meet the facility's massive power demands, the company began installing dozens of polluting methane gas turbines without any permits. What makes this even more shocking is that xAI knew they needed permits, but decided to start operations anyway, gambling that they could get approval later or that authorities wouldn't notice. The community surrounding the data center is predominantly African American, with many families who have lived in the area for generations. These residents had already dealt with decades of environmental problems from other industrial facilities. And now they were facing a new threat that was pumping pollution into their air 24 hours a day. Local resident Patricia Williams described the change in her neighborhood. She explained that the constant humming and rumbling from the turbines made it difficult to sleep at night. The smell was so strong some mornings that she couldn't hang laundry outside to dry. Her granddaughter, who had never had breathing problems before, started using an inhaler for the first time in her life. The situation became even more alarming when environmental investigators began measuring the actual pollution levels. The turbines were releasing nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and other harmful chemicals directly into the air that families were breathing every day. These chemicals can cause serious health problems including asthma, heart disease, and even cancer with long-term exposure. But the real shock came when activists discovered just how many rules Musk's company had broken.
Just over this fence, you can see and hear the turbines churning 24 hours a day. What's not in dispute is the fact that they are polluting the air.
The investigation that changed everything. Environmental justice groups and concerned residents began digging into the permits and legal documents surrounding the Colossus facility. What they discovered was worse than anyone had imagined. A pattern of rule-breaking and environmental violations that seemed to show complete disregard for the community's health and safety. The Shelby County Health Department, numerous campaigns by residents and climate activists who opposed what they said was illegal operation of 35 gas-fueled turbines to power the facility. The number kept growing as investigators used aerial photography and site visits to document exactly how many turbines were actually running at the facility. The legal requirements were clear and had existed for decades. Under the Clean Air Act, any facility operating large gas turbines must obtain proper permits before beginning operations. These permits require companies to prove that their emissions won't harm public health, install pollution control equipment, and monitor their impact on the surrounding community. XAI had skipped all of these requirements and started operations anyway. Environmental lawyer Sarah Chen, who represents several affected families, explained that this wasn't just a paperwork problem. She pointed out that the permit process exists to protect communities from exactly the kind of health risks that Memphis residents were now experiencing. The investigation also revealed that local officials may have known about the permit problems but allowed operations to continue anyway. Email exchanges between city officials and XAI representatives showed discussions about permits that were never properly filed or approved. Some residents began to wonder whether the promise of jobs and tax revenue had influenced officials to look the other way when rules were being broken.
We don't want money in exchange for our lungs or in exchange for our lives. We want clean air, we want clean water, clean soil, just like everybody else.
Meanwhile, the health complaints from the community were mounting. Local doctors reported increases in respiratory problems, headaches, and other symptoms that seemed to coincide with the facility's operations. Emergency room visits for breathing difficulties spiked in neighborhoods closest to the data center. In May 2025, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People made a decision that sent shockwaves through the tech industry. In a letter dated Thursday, May 29th, the NAACP Michelle Taylor, Director and Health Officer of Shelby County Health Department, and the Memphis Light, Gas and Water Board of Commissioners to shut down Elon Musk's XAI data center in South Memphis, citing illegal operations and health risks. The NAACP's involvement transformed what had been a local environmental dispute into a national story about environmental racism and corporate responsibility. The organization argued that XAI had deliberately chosen a predominantly black community for its facility because they believed residents would have less political power to fight back against pollution. The civil rights group's letter was devastating in its directness. They accused XAI of treating the South Memphis community as expendable, prioritizing profits over people's health and safety. The NAACP pointed out that wealthy, predominantly white communities would never tolerate the kind of pollution that was being dumped on this neighborhood. Civil rights group the NAACP has called on regulators in Memphis to shut down a data center belonging to Elon Musk's XAI over concerns that it may not be compliant with environmental legislation. The organization demanded an immediate halt to all operations until proper permits were obtained and pollution control measures were installed. The NAACP's action presented evidence that the facility was causing real harm to real people. Their letter included testimony from residents describing health problems, photographs of visible pollution, and air quality measurements that showed dangerous levels of toxic chemicals in the neighborhood. The response from XAI and Elon Musk was swift but raised even more questions about the company's commitment to following environmental laws.
Among their concerns, the company is running the turbines without a permit. But the health department says that's okay for the first year.
Musk's response backfires spectacularly. When the NAACP's demands became public, Elon Musk and his team at XAI faced a choice. They could acknowledge the problems, work with the community to fix them, and commit to following all environmental laws going forward. Instead, they chose a path that would make the situation much worse. Rather than addressing the health concerns directly, XAI's initial response focused on defending the economic benefits of the project. Company representatives argued that the facility was bringing jobs to Memphis and contributing to American leadership in artificial intelligence technology. They claimed that environmental groups were trying to stop progress and innovation. The situation got worse when some of Musk's supporters online began attacking the Memphis community and the NAACP. Social media posts suggested that residents were being paid by competitors to complain, or that they didn't understand the importance of AI development for America's future. These attacks only strengthened community resolve and brought more attention to the environmental justice issues at stake. The mounting pressure from the NAACP, environmental groups, and affected residents finally forced government officials to acknowledge what they had been trying to ignore for months. The evidence of illegal operations was too clear to dismiss, and the health risks to the community were too serious to overlook any longer.
Working to protect our lungs, and not once have they went to XAI to see that they had 35 gas turbines operating and polluting our air.
The Shelby County Health Department, which had been largely silent about the permit violations, began conducting its own investigation into the facility's operations. Health officials announced that they were reviewing all aspects of the Colossus operation to determine whether it posed risks to public health and whether the company was in compliance with local environmental regulations. At the same time, the Environmental Protection Agency indicated that it was looking into the situation. The EPA says it's looking into it, though the agency was careful not to commit to any specific timeline or actions. Federal involvement meant that the case could have implications far beyond Memphis, potentially affecting how other tech companies approach environmental regulations. The Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation also launched its own review of the facility's permits and operations. State environmental officials acknowledged that they had received numerous complaints from residents and advocacy groups about air quality problems in the area around the data center. Local Memphis officials found themselves in an increasingly difficult position. They had initially supported the project because of its economic benefits, but the growing evidence of health risks and legal violations made it harder to defend the facility's operations. Some city council members began calling for immediate action to address the permit violations. As the legal and political battles raged, the human cost of the facility's operations became increasingly clear. Community health advocates began systematically documenting health problems in neighborhoods around the Colossus data center, and what they found painted a disturbing picture of environmental harm. Dr. Jennifer Washington, a local physician who treats many residents in the affected area, began noticing patterns in her patients that concerned her deeply. Children who had never had breathing problems before were coming in with persistent coughs and wheezing. Elderly patients with controlled asthma were experiencing more frequent and severe attacks. Adults were complaining of headaches, fatigue, and throat irritation that seemed to get worse on days when the wind carried air from the direction of the data center. The health impacts weren't limited to respiratory problems. Some residents reported that the constant noise and vibration from the turbines was affecting their sleep and mental health. The facility operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, creating a constant background of industrial noise that made it difficult for neighbors to rest or enjoy their homes. As the health crisis deepened, pressure for immediate action reached a breaking point.
These are the gas turbines fueling the supercomputer they call Colossus. They emit hazardous pollutants like formaldehyde and nitrogen oxides, according to the manufacturer.
The shutdown. Demands grow stronger. The combination of mounting health evidence, legal pressure, and community organizing finally reached a tipping point in the summer of 2025. The NAACP is calling on local officials to halt operations at Colossus, the supercomputer facility operated by Elon Musk's xAI in South Memphis. This was a demand for complete shutdown until the facility could prove it was safe for the surrounding community. The shutdown demands were backed by a growing coalition of environmental groups, health advocates, and community organizations. Local churches, schools, and neighborhood associations joined the call for immediate action to protect residents' health and safety. The broad community support made it clear that this was a genuine grassroots movement by people whose lives were being affected. Just when it seemed like the situation couldn't get more serious for xAI, federal investigators announced that they were opening their own investigation into the Colossus facility. This development transformed a local environmental dispute into a potential federal case that could have implications for the entire tech industry. The Environmental Protection Agency's involvement brought new resources and legal authority to the investigation. Unlike local officials who might face political pressure to support economic development, federal environmental regulators have a clear mandate to enforce pollution laws regardless of economic considerations. EPA investigators began conducting their own air quality monitoring around the facility, using sophisticated equipment that could detect pollution levels with much greater precision than community groups had been able to achieve. The federal monitoring data would carry more weight in any legal proceedings and would be harder for xAI to dispute or dismiss. The federal investigation also looked beyond just the permit violations to examine whether the company had been truthful in its communications with government agencies. Providing false information to federal regulators is a serious crime that can result in criminal charges against company executives, not just civil fines against the corporation. As federal investigators dug deeper, they uncovered something that would shock even the most cynical observers. The federal investigation revealed that the permit violations at the Colossus facility were not isolated mistakes or oversights. Instead, investigators found evidence of a systematic effort to hide the true scale of the facility's operations from regulators and the public. Internal company documents showed that xAI executives had been aware of the permit requirements from the beginning, but had made a conscious decision to start operations without proper approvals. Email exchanges between company officials revealed discussions about the risks of operating without permits, but they concluded that the benefits outweighed the potential penalties. Even more damaging were communications that suggested the company had deliberately provided misleading information about the number of turbines they planned to operate. Permit applications filed with local authorities described a much smaller operation than what was actually built, apparently in an effort to avoid more stringent review and approval processes. The investigation also uncovered evidence that the company had tried to pressure local officials to ignore the permit violations. Meeting notes and email exchanges showed xAI representatives arguing that enforcing environmental regulations would hurt Memphis economically and damage the city's reputation as a business-friendly location. Some of the most shocking revelations involve the company's attitude toward the surrounding community. Internal communications revealed that company executives had discussed the demographic makeup of the neighborhood and concluded that residents would be unlikely to mount effective opposition to the facility's operations. As the cover-up evidence became public, calls for accountability reached a crescendo. What this means for the future. By August 2025, the combination of legal pressure, federal investigation, and community organizing had created an impossible situation for xAI. The company faced potential criminal charges, massive civil penalties, and a complete loss of social license to operate in Memphis. Elon Musk's AI startup has been running the turbines for months to power its Colossus supercomputer in Memphis, but the legal and political costs of continuing operations were becoming unsustainable. The company was spending millions of dollars on legal fees while facing the possibility of even larger fines and penalties. The situation reached a breaking point when the Shelby County Health Department announced that it was preparing to issue an emergency order requiring the immediate shutdown of all unpermitted turbines at the facility. This action would effectively shut down most of Colossus's operations and could force the company to move its AI training operations to another location. Industry analysts began calculating the potential costs of a forced shutdown. Moving 200,000 GPUs and the associated infrastructure to a new location would cost hundreds of millions of dollars and could delay xAI's AI development timeline by years. The company's competitors would gain significant advantages while Colossus was offline. The reputational damage was already affecting xAI's business relationships. Some potential customers and partners began expressing concerns about working with a company that was facing serious environmental violations and federal investigations. The controversy was also making it more difficult for the company to recruit top talent, as many AI researchers preferred to work for organizations with better corporate responsibility records. The crisis at xAI's Memphis facility represents a wake-up call for the entire tech industry about the true costs of artificial intelligence development and the importance of environmental justice. The enormous energy requirements of AI training have been largely hidden from public view, but the Memphis situation has exposed how these facilities can impact local communities. As AI companies race to build larger and more powerful systems, they will need much more electricity, and that electricity has to come from somewhere. The environmental justice implications of the case are particularly significant. The fact that xAI chose a predominantly Black, lower-income community for a facility with serious pollution risks fits a long-standing pattern of environmental racism in American industrial development. The successful organizing by Memphis residents, supported by the NAACP, could inspire similar communities facing environmental threats from tech companies. For the artificial intelligence industry more broadly, the Memphis crisis highlights the need for more sustainable approaches to AI development. Companies will need to invest in renewable energy sources, more efficient computing technologies, and genuine community engagement if they want to avoid similar conflicts in the future. The success of the community organizing in Memphis also provides a model for other neighborhoods facing environmental threats from tech companies. The combination of scientific documentation, legal advocacy, and political pressure proved effective in forcing accountability from one of the world's most powerful corporations. The battle over Elon Musk's Grok database center in Memphis has exposed the hidden environmental costs of artificial intelligence and the power of communities to fight back against corporate pollution. While the final outcome remains uncertain, the case has already changed how we think about tech development and environmental justice. But what do you think should happen to companies that put profits before people's health? Share your thoughts in the comments below.